Hey, welcome to another episode of Local Marketing Beat, brought to you by Overall, the only location marketing platform that connects your digital presence to revenue. Today, we're joined by Partho Ghosh, VP of Product at Overall, and we're discussing a pretty cool topic. We're talking about how to get your brand ready for AI search. We're actually discussing a few content pieces out there, white papers, consumer reports, and really give us a overall perspective on the technical approach of how Overall is getting brands ready. Partho has over a decade of experience in B2B SaaS product management and growth. He has led numerous product transformations at large companies in SaaS and startups, including Unbounce, Hootsuite, many, many more. He's always, love to follow him on LinkedIn because he's always, being out there as keynote speaker at product conventions. And he's just a really cool guy. So if you ever bump into him, stop by and say hi. With that, welcome to the show, Partho.
Thanks, appreciate it. Nice, and thank you for the intro. It's kind.
Yeah, no, and the one thing I did miss on my intro was the cool shirts, right? So you will always see Partho with the best, cool looking, colorful shirts.
Yeah, I don't know what I have on today, but some anime of something. My daughters always choose the shirts. It's like they go shopping for me. They know my size. I get to kind of she buys all the shirts basically, which is nice.
Yeah, no, that's cool. I mean, it's always good to have that assistance and angle, right? Coming from
Exactly.
from the
People talk
outside.
about it on the streets. They come up, they're like, "Oh, that's cool. That's Disney." I'm like, "Yeah, okay, cool. That's awesome. I'll pass that feedback to my daughter. She's only 6 or 5.5,
That
6."
is hilarious. So I mean, and I don't know if she's just going by what's happening on social, or maybe she's actually using AI, right? I was like, hey, help me find shirts for my dad, right? But I mean, honestly, we've been talking about AI on every episode for obvious reasons. It is a big shift in both the way that we market brands and the way that consumers find those brands. So I would really like to hear from your perspective, specifically to local level, right? How is the consumer searching, and how are brands adapting to this shift that's going on tremendously, right? At a very rapid speed.
Yeah, I mean, you're not about that, right? Like, I think the biggest thing that we're seeing, and we did our own survey recently, partnered with Capgemini, I think, on it, but it was pretty telling, right? I always love some of the surveys that get sent out. You get a bunch of answers, and you're like, "Whoa, I didn't expect that." But
Right.
already, I think they're saying like 58% of consumers are already using generative AI and AI search to kind of do both product and service discovery, right? So when they're trying to find, I'm based out of Vancouver in Canada. We're the headquarters of Lululemon, so yoga pants and Lululemon's always on the mind somewhat. So it's like, instead of going through to Lululemon's site or doing a search on it, they're simply going through AI and asking the questions and asking what's popular and getting an answer right away, right? It's like, it's quick, it's fast, and you don't have to do too much discovery. You don't have to go to websites. You don't have to scroll, right? The scrolling motion, I think, is starting to kind of fade away. It's like, give me the answer. We've always known that, right? Be in the top 1, 2, or 3 spot in search, but now it's like, just be right there. And yeah, I mean, that 58% is a huge number that are starting to do that, but even more so, I think it was something like a third of folks that responded kind of went and said that they preferred the AI search result, that's what they look for now, right? And that's up, from probably 5-10% less than a year ago. So
Yeah.
it's changing fast.
Yeah, and I heard that in the AI discoverability white paper, there was a mention about the funnels compressing, which I thought it was interesting because on every episode we actually thought about the opposite. Like, the funnel's actually getting more complex. There's more steps before you actually get to a location or a business. But I guess the point here that I want to hear your opinion was, there is something to it because AI is actually picking for you, right? It's giving you what it thinks is best, and just do this and just call them up or just buy from this company. What is your take on that? Because I think this is interesting, right? To me, I feel like it's adding steps, but at the same time, maybe we're about to see the opposite, where it's like we're removing steps and we're doing it all for you.
Yeah, I mean, It is really interesting, right? And I think from an SEO perspective as well, traditionally what I find very, very funny about it is that, and we get asked this question quite a bit from our customers and our users, and I think there's funny LinkedIn posts out there that talk about this too, of like to really start dominating kind of AI search. Oh my goodness, like the steps that you got to do are, whoa, almost the same as some of these steps you'd have to do for traditional SEO, right? And SEO in general. And I think that, yeah, the funnel is compressing because there's only one answer that's coming out often, and AI is non-deterministic, right? So it's really you're not going to be able to kind of fully give it and tell it to answer the same thing over and over again. It's going to choose, right, based on a lot of different factors. But we're starting to see that those factors are very much things that any SEO manager and else that you talk to is going to care about, whether it comes to, relevancy, whether it comes to trust and authority. AI cares a lot about really fresh content, really relevant, and trust in the brands that it imposes and gives an answer to, which obviously means things like reviews and customer sentiment and how much you're coming up, and how relevant your brand is. These things all matter, which, we also know that matters from an SEO perspective. The one thing we obviously praise at Uberall, no matter what, and it's good that it matters in an AI search world too, is clearly structured data and content matters a lot, right? Having the same relevant information across all platforms. We've actually seen it in a world where, especially with ChatGPT and Gemini, that if you have one or two platforms that are off or incorrect in terms of its data, and the data could be super minute, right? It could be like an opening hour of a store, or it could be missing data on one platform for some reason, that the AI devalues you
Hmm.
as the answer for something so small. So this stuff matters a lot. It's good to know that a lot of the things that, in the SEO world we've been caring about for 10, 15 years, a lot of it still matters, a lot of it's still relevant. But now it's probably just put on kind of hyper mode that you have to really make sure you're on top of it, because a small thing can really make the difference of you being the answer versus you not being the answer.
And I really consider specifically ChatGPT, but we're talking about all the AI tools and
Yeah.
engines, right? But it really feels like word of mouth 3.0, right? Because word of mouth goes back into old fashioned marketing. Then
Yeah.
reviews and reputation came in, right? And social. And it's like, yeah, we're like talking about all these brands. Now this is just using your data and recommending you something. So this is where I want to hear your opinion, because from what I hear, consumers trust AI answers, right? Like to very, very high percentage, almost to the point where they don't even question it. They just go with what's recommended. And then I saw a few articles that were talking about the OpenAI CEO talking about AI makes things up, right? So why are people so trustworthy? And it's funny, right? It's like, oh, so you're telling us we're not supposed to trust it, but we're trusting it so much.
Yeah.
What's your take on that? What do you think is going on, or where do we go from here?
Yeah, I mean, I think, we're still in the infancy of the
Right.
AI era, and I think we've never really seen something take off this viral. I think we've all
Yeah.
been in the era
So
of
fast.
social and iPhones coming into play. Maybe I'm aging myself, but like this is another level from even that, I would say. And I think, when the CEO of OpenAI says that, it's something we should kind of heed a little bit, that there is hallucination, right? And there are manipulation of information. And you do have to kind of, whether you're doing it for yourself or you're doing it for your brand, you got to make sure that you do check. That's something that, that is there, and that world, is going to shift. But we also know that AI will mature, and that more and more relevant answers and the appropriate answers will come out. I mean, that's the hope, and that's what I think we're already starting to see. I think, if you're overseeing and working for a brand of some kind and thinking about this stuff, I think, that term around kind of authority and just trust comes into play. And what we don't often think about is the way that we kind of think about these things from a traditional SEO point of view. That's where some things are shifting, right? Where like we look at like domain authority, we look at backlinks, we look at keywords. that's the stuff that might not matter as much. That doesn't mean that structured data doesn't matter. It doesn't mean that relevant content doesn't matter. It doesn't mean that your presence doesn't matter. Like, but the way that you go about it is different. And so now all of a
Yeah.
sudden things like, there are channels that some of us may have never even cared about or focused on. Things like Reddit or Quora, right? Or Wikipedia. Like these are extremely important all of a sudden because AI sees it as a trust engine, right? What are people saying about your brand on Reddit in regards to trust? And then it uses that to determine, should I answer your brand or your company or your product as the answer for this question that a customer has or user has. So that's the way it's shifting, I think. And I agree that hallucination is something we have to care about. And if you're managing, portfolios and brands and thinking about it from both an AIO or AI optimization point of view, and AI search, or even just from an SEO perspective, there's just new channels that are coming up that you have to think about now and make sure you're relevant and that you're trustworthy on those channels.
I mean, just talking about Bing, right? Like Bing profiles is something that
Yeah.
I have never really brought up on a presentation or a keynote, never, right? Up until this year, like now is on the list, right? Because it's important, is being used. So
I probably shouldn't laugh, but it's absolutely true. Like
you
I've said
know,
the same thing as like I've been on customer conversation, but it's like, what are you doing on the Bing side? And what's your profile look like? And what are we talking about? Why? I'm like, oh,
yeah.
actually, and I show some data off of like this matters, especially for some, Claude and ChatGPT cares a lot about it. So, it's super interesting, right? And then you've got something like Perplexity, which obviously uses all the models that a lot of the LLMs are, right? Claude and from Anthropic and then ChatGPT from OpenAI, but and its own, model as well. So there's a lot. Like it can be overwhelming. And I think that's one thing to note is I think it's okay. I think we should make it known that it's okay to feel overwhelmed and daunted right now because things change. They're changing so fast. I mean, every day, every
Yeah.
week, there's something net new. So I think giving yourself a little bit of grace is also important in this time, right? And that's there too.
And I know that overall has been really upfront with this, right? Trying to get ahead of this curve on going a way farther than what we've been doing for just local SEO, right? We're bringing in this concept of multiple pillars, and it was a interesting timing with AI happening and this all coming together. But what's your take really on things like LPO, right? Which is location performance optimization, where we're not talking just listings, we're not talking just reputation, right? It's because there's so many platforms and directories. So you on the product side of things, how do you think about this when there's new features or new products to be thought of in this AI age? What's your take on that?
Yeah, well, first off, I think that LPO came from talking to customers and users and the market, right? What we saw was that there's just such a large set of practices that people need to do at a local level and from a local SEO point of view. And now let's call it a local AI search point of view, right? I think that in the end, LPO, the main pillars of it, right? Just calling out visibility, reputation, engagement from a social point of view, and then of course conversion. The end goal, I think, we knew from the get-go when we created that AI was going to influence it quite a bit. And so we always created that kind of strategy and that thought process that this practice and this set of practices that we hope most brands are doing or have someone or some set of teams doing this work, it's going to get supercharged by AI, not only from themselves of how they operate efficiently, it's also got supercharged because we know AI search is coming into play and all the things we just started talking about. But in the end, I do think that the center of LPO is revenue, right? And is ROI. And I think we can't lose our eyes and mindset off of the key goal, right? Which is that we need to drive conversion. We need to improve it. We need to get more footfall and traffic into your stores and get more sales, right? And I think sometimes you do all these practices, and whether it's responding to reviews every single day and that slog, whether you're, always thinking about your listings and keeping things up to date, the end goal is to make sure more people are going and purchasing your products and services. And so that really ties back into the LPO strategy. And I think it fits really nicely with this AI world too, because especially with what we're doing, not to obviously pitch, some of our own stuff, but with Ubi coming out, right, our AI and the orchestrator of our platform really taking a hold. Ubi's meant to help you drive your LPO strategy, right? And it's tied to a score that we have called location performance score, which looks at all of those pillars that we just talked about: visibility, engagement, reputation. And so it's going to do things on its own in the background when you prompt it to improve that LPS score. And that's how we've set it up. And so, yeah, it's all meant to tie together. You know, it's not meant to be super scientific and like rocket science. That wasn't the idea.
Right.
Although because of AI, it's definitely, it is complex. But I think that stuff that our customers do inherently is actually kind of complex, right? When you think
Yeah.
about it.
Yeah, especially because I think I hear what you're saying, right? Coming from talking to customers and how LPO got created to begin with, it was always that weird conversation of like, hey, we're doing a local SEO, right? So we're doing all these things, optimizing our website and schema and citations. That's our practice. But we're also doing review management and we're also doing social posts. And we're also, and then at the end of the day, it was like, well, you're actually doing like 10 different things, right? This is not just local SEO.
It's
So it just really aligns, right, with that whole encompassing
You
everything.
got to empathize with it too, right? Like just how
Yeah,
much I know when I talk to our users and customers, it's like sometimes you gotta sit back and kind of empathize. So just like you do a lot of stuff, like there's a lot that
right.
goes on, and now there's this new. I always use this term. There's a new juggling ball, right? In the all the balls that you're juggling, there's a new one with AI search, and I think it's important to take things step by step and start. I will say, I do think that AI can be the turning point of using it for yourself, not just in regards to AI search, but using AI within the platform to help you. It's really why we built Ubi in the first place.
Yeah. Now, is Ubi is just launching, right? At the time of us speaking, is rolling out as we speak.
Yeah.
What is your take on the vision, right? Where is Ubi going, and how is the platform going to be different? Maybe if we talk about this in by the end of the year, right? What's the vision there that you think is gonna happen for brands that are probably looking for this assistance and just efficiency, right? Or what's your take on that?
Yeah, I don't think I've been more excited about something in a platform in a very long time. And it's because I think, even where we are today, some people are using it in ways that we didn't even expect them to use it. And it's performing as well, which is awesome. But the biggest thing, the vision of where we're going, let's start with kind of like, where we are today to the end of this year. Ubi and the AI is gonna in the platform is really gonna allow you to take action and ask it and prompt it to do anything you want it to, whether it's respond to all the negative responses that have come to me. If, then be able to say like the responses have some kind of major red flag that you care about, let's say, a food safety issue or bad customer service, you can then tell it to make sure that send a specific email address or a specific phone number. It'll then add that to all of the reviews that come through, right? So super quickly within, a minute or two, you can be responding to 40 negative responses right away, right? It's so fast. Same thing on the social side. It's like, you're going to get to a place where if you don't have local content, local posts, or even global posts, you're going to be able to kind of say like, hey, create a content calendar for me. I want 5 posts per week. And here, here's the campaigns we're talking about. In the future, you can be able to connect it to, some of the marketing automation platforms or marketing project management tools that exist out there. And it'll know right away, these are the campaigns going on. And then it'll build a content strategy and a content plan for all the different networks that you have, right? And so within 5 minutes, you have a full content calendar created. And of course, you can tweak and regenerate and edit, prove and disprove any of that. It's not something that'll just take a hold and take over. But that's where it is going. You asked about the vision. The vision is that, even by end of the year, it's going to be able to do this. That one thing that we've done with Ubi is we're allowing and making it so that when you take an action or you ask it to do something, Ubi gives you prompts as well based on where you are and how you're performing and where your LPS score is. It'll give you prompts like, hey, you should do X, Y, and Z. You haven't updated your opening hours here, or you haven't, missing data here on these locations, or you got negative responses waiting for you. You can one click and it'll respond to all that and update it. It'll actually, take over and show you what it's doing in real time. So you feel more comfortable with what it's doing, and then it'll ask you to approve in the end. But we're going to get to a spot where you'll be able to, as a user, say, just put it on autopilot. Just let it do it for me. Even when I'm away, I'm not logged in the background, it's doing that work. Like that's something that's capable and we can do already, but we're kind of unlocking that towards the end of the year, getting people used to using AI in the platform. But what I'm excited about is really where it's going. And that doesn't, and that's just going to free up time, right? We talked about the juggling balls. Now you're going to be able to be more strategic and actually, some of these things you can let Ubi do its thing while you think about really important things that you probably don't have enough time to do.
Yeah, maybe push the limits, right? Like how much can I focus on each of the pillars, right? Or more on visibility or more on reputation or
Yeah.
boost conversions because there was not enough manpower, there was not enough hours in the day to tackle all of them for 1,000 locations. And now with something like this, maybe your team can do it, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Now, for all our audience listening to us, and they're probably testing and tackling all things AI and or maybe not, right? Like we don't know. Some of them are, some of them may not. What would be your number one recommendation on where to start? Like how do they prepare for this shift, for what we're seeing, for what we're probably going to experience in the near future with AI search? What should be their step one as a recommendation from you?
Yeah, I mean, I think a step one for me is, I think the first thing that we kind of see, if I'm tackling things in priority, I'm probably looking at number one, kind of structured data as a whole and making sure that the data that's across all the platforms are aligned, are correct, not missing, whether that's on GBP, whether that's obviously within the overall platform. Also your website, right? If you have local pages, if you don't have local pages are very important. If you do have them, making sure they're also up to date. We've had customers where they saw that, AI was giving incorrect answer and that actually was its own website. The company's website was the reason for that. And so, that's really important because that's where that authority and relevancy is coming into play from the AI perspective. I think if that's something I've tackled and kind of done, I'm then really thinking about relevant content, right? Keeping things fresh, making sure I'm posting, Google posting, Apple posting is becoming more and more important, posting in general, and just being, keeping things up to date. A lot of brands still have, like, they say that they have a social strategy, but the last post at a local level was 6 months ago. It's like, that's not relevant anymore. And so especially if you have promotions and things like that, tie those two things together. So I think relevant content is probably the second thing I'd tackle. And the third one, I know you asked for one, but the third thing I'd then start doing is just testing, right? Like test different channels, look at channels you might not be thinking about, ask AI what channels maybe I should be thinking about. Like the fun thing about with AI, whether it's within Ubi or whether it's on ChatGPT, you can ask it things and it'll give you answers and answers you might not be thinking about, right? It's a two-way conversation, at least it should be. And so treat it that way instead of a one-way kind of search and prompt, treat it as a two-way conversation. And yeah, I made this joke recently that when I was using kind of, ChatGPT day to day, one of the best things I was doing, I felt that I didn't even know I was doing it inherently, maybe the Canadian side of me is I was being very polite. I was saying thank you. At the end of all the conversations, I always said thank you. The realization that I had is the reason I started saying it more and more is because it actually gives you more answers thereafter of like, well, okay, no problem. Just in case, like, have you thought about this, this, and this? Or as next steps, thinking this, this, and this. If you want to talk to me about it, right? As AI, it's saying, if you want to talk to
Yeah.
me about it, let me know. And it's like saying thank you here actually just gave me a bunch of other next steps that I wasn't even thinking about. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's the way to start shifting our mindset is just this is a new era that we're in and we got to get kind of used to it and it's going to be fun.
It is going to be fun. And I just want to say thank you so much for making the time to speak to us today, to our listeners, subscribers. If anybody want to follow you and what you're working on and all your keynote speaks or presentations out there, how can they connect and follow what you're working on?
Thanks. Yeah, no, the best way is LinkedIn. My LinkedIn is I have to brand myself. It's product Partho, Partho. But yeah, /in/product Partho is the best way. I post there quite a bit on LinkedIn, and I obviously write and do stuff on Uberall as well, and so the blog posts and things like that. Yeah, I'm sure you'll see a lot through Uberall as well.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much again.
No, thank you.
Thanks everybody for watching. If you made it this far into the video, visit overall.com to learn more about what Overall is up to. And if you want to get certified in LPO, you can visit academy.overall.com so that you can get certified completely free, open to everyone. With that, thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you on the next episode. Bye-bye.